Recently, this site was featured as Site of the Day over on Awards just 4 days ago, and it's packed with cool animations all the way through. But the one that really caught my eye was this interactive ASCII logo animation sitting down in the footer. At first, it just looks like the studio's logo, except it's not solid. It's built entirely out of little ASCII characters, letters and numbers forming the shape of the word mark, and it's alive. As you move your cursor across it, the characters flicker and push away from you, drifting aside like they're avoiding your hand, then easing back into place once you pass. But the real fun is when you click. The whole logo scatters, every character drifting off to its own random spot. Click again and they all drop, falling straight down under gravity and bouncing as they hit the floor. And one more click gathers them back up, rising up and settling into the logo shape once more. It's a small thing tucked in the corner of a page, but it's so tactile and playful that I had to rebuild it. Following that idea, I put together my own version, recreating the whole effect with plain JavaScript and a canvas, no libraries at all. In this video, I'll walk you through the whole thing and show you how to build an animation like this yourself, from turning a logo image into ASCII characters, to the cursor hover, to the click cycle that scatters, drops, and reassembles them. So without wasting any time, let's get into the code. The HTML and CSS here are about as light as it gets, and since the JavaScript is where all the real work happens, I'll move through this part fast, just enough that you can copy it and follow along. For the HTML, it's just a footer with two things inside it: a canvas, which is where we'll draw all our ASCII characters, and an image, our actual logo file. And that image is the key to the whole thing. It's the source we read the shape from, but we never really show it. We just use it to figure out where the characters go. For the CSS, we start with the usual resets. Then the footer fills the screen and gets a dark background. The canvas sits on top and stretches to fill it. Then the image. And here's the part worth pausing on. We center it, size it to 80% of the width, and then hide it with visibility hidden. So it's still there, still taking up its space in the layout, which is exactly what we need, so we can measure it later, but it never actually appears on screen. The canvas draws over it. And last, one small media query. On screens narrower than 1000 pixels, the ASCII effect doesn't really have the room to breathe, so we just switch it off. We hide the canvas and flip the image back to visible, so smaller screens simply get the clean logo instead. And that's really all that matters in the CSS. Now let's get straight into the JavaScript. Let's start at the top, with the values that control how everything looks and feels. We don't need to understand each one yet. They'll click the moment we use them, so I'll just walk through what each is for. The first few set up the grid the logo is built on. Cell size is how big each cell is. Cell gap is the space between them, and adding those gives cell step, the distance from one cell to the next, which is the number we lean on constantly to move between the grid and the screen. Then ASCII color, the gray we draw in, the pool of letters and numbers we pick from, how bright a spot has to be to become a character, and ASCII min width, the 1000 pixel cutoff below, which we switch the whole effect off. The rest are field values that each land better when we reach them. Hover radius, push and ease for the cursor, scatter range and ease for the scatter, gravity and bounce for the fall, reset ease for gathering back home, and stagger frames, a small delay so things don't all move at once. Next, the elements. We grab the canvas and its context, the object we actually draw with, then the logo image we're reading the shape from, and pixel ratio, the screen's density, which we save now to keep everything crisp on sharp displays later. Then a few values we track as the animation runs. Phase is the big one, a single word for what the logo is doing right now, starting as logo and later flipping to scattered, fallen, and returning as we click through, with almost everything keying off it. Cursor holds where the mouse is in grid cells, and we start it far off at -999, so nothing gets pushed until the mouse actually moves, and grid goals, grid rows, and ASCII cells stay empty for now, ready to fill the moment we build the logo. Then a tiny helper, which just pulls one character out of that pool at random, and we'll use it to give every character its glyph. And now the heart of part 1, build ASCII from logo, which takes our image and turns it into a grid of characters. First line is a guard. If the window is under our cutoff, we empty the cells and return early. Since there's no point building an ASCII logo, the CSS is just going to hide. Past that, we set up the grid. Grid goals is the screen width over cell step, floored, so how many whole cells fit across, and grid rows the same going down. Then we size the canvas to the screen times pixel ratio. So on a retina screen, it has twice the pixels underneath, and set transform scales are drawing back by that same ratio. So we keep thinking in normal pixels, while the canvas renders sharp underneath. That pair is the whole trick to crisp text on canvas. Now the clever bit, actually reading the logo. We can't easily inspect an image's pixels on the page, so instead we draw it into a second hidden canvas we can read from. We measure where the logo sits with getBounding client rect, create that scratch canvas, the sampler, and here's the key idea. We make it tiny, exactly grid goals by grid rows, so it's 1 pixel per cell. The image shrunk right down to the resolution of our grid. We draw the logo into it, dividing its position and size by cell step, so it lands in the same place it occupies on the real screen, and getImageData hands us back the raw pixels, 1 per cell. Now we walk the grid and decide which cells become characters, collecting the winners in a set called lit cells, which is handy because it ignores duplicates, and that matters in a second. For each cell we find its pixel in that flat list of red, green, blue, and alpha values, then work out brightness. This line, red times 0.299 plus green times 0.587 plus blue times 0.114 is the standard formula for how bright a color looks to the eye, and since we're far more sensitive to green than blue, green carries the most weight, with the 3 amounts adding up to 1. We normalize it, then multiply by the alpha, so a see-through pixel counts as dark no matter its color. Then the decision, if that brightness clears our threshold, the cell becomes a character, and notice we add 2, this cell and the one beside it, a small trick to make the shape read denser and more solid. And that's exactly why we used a set. When those neighbors overlap, it quietly drops the repeats. With the lit cells found, we build our real list. We loop the set, and since each entry is a little text key, we split it back into a colon row. For each one we push in an object, a single character holding everything about itself, its colon row for its home. Run that, and a flat image is now a full list of living characters, each ready to move. 2 last helpers round out part 1. Ease toward is the engine of all our smooth motion. You hand it a character, a target, and an ease amount, and this one line is the whole idea. Offset x plus equals target x minus offset x times ease. That gap, target minus current, is the distance still to travel, and we move only a fraction of it each frame, so it glides most of the way. Nearly every movement in the project flows through this. And last, stagger cells, which gives each character a random little weight, so when we scatter or reassemble, they don't all leave at the same instant. Each sits still until its clock counts down, and the motion ripples across the logo, instead of snapping all at once. That's part 1. Our setup and the function that builds the ASCII logo. Next, let's make it move. Now the function that actually moves everything. Update ASCII cells. It runs every frame, and its whole job is to look at the current phase and nudge every character toward where it should be. At the top, we set a flag. Everyone home. True, only if we're returning, and any character still on its way flips it back to false. Hold that thought, it pays off at the end. Then we loop every character, and first we check its weight, that stagger delay. If it still has time on the clock, we count it down and skip the rest, so it sits still for now. Past that, we branch on the phase. If we're scattered, we just ease the character toward its own scatter x and scatter y, that random spot we picked when we built it, so it drifts out slowly. If we're fallen, we do real gravity. We work out the floor, how far down it has to travel, which is grid rows, -1 minus its row. Then each frame we add gravity to its fall speed, and add that speed to its position, so it doesn't fall at a steady rate. It accelerates the longer it drops, exactly like a real object. And when it passes the floor, we pin it there and flip its fall speed, times minus bounce. The minus turns it around to head back up, and bounce being under 1 means it returns with only a quarter of its speed, so each bounce is smaller than the last until it settles. And notice we never touch its x, only the y, which is why the characters fall dead straight down. If we're returning, we ease the character back towards 0, 0, its home, so the logo gathers itself together, and this is where that flag comes in. If any character is still more than a hair from home, we set everyone home to false. Then, that one line at the bottom, once the loop's done, if everyone home is still true, we flip the phase back to logo, handing control back to the hover. It's how the animation knows the reassembly has finished, and it's safe to be interactive again. And the last branch, the else, is that resting hover. For each character we measure how far it sits from the cursor, and turn that into a straight line distance. With the Pythagorean thing, the square root of the two differences squared. If that's within our hover radius, the character's close enough to react, so we work out a push, 1 minus distance over radius, which is full up close and fades to nothing at the edge, scaled by hover push. Then we point it directly away from the cursor along each axis, and that becomes the target. So characters near your cursor get shoved away, hardest right beside it, and anything outside just eases home. Either way it goes through ease toward, and the motion stays smooth. Then draw ASCII, the painter. We clear the canvas each frame, set the font, and align each character from its top center so it sits cleanly on the grid. Set the fill to our gray, then loop every character and work out where it goes. Its X is its column plus its offset times cell step, which turns grid space into pixels, plus half a cell to center it, and the Y is the same going down. Then fill text draws it. So this function never decides anything, it just paints wherever update has moved everything. Those two are tied together by render loop, which if we've got characters, updates them, then draws them, and either way calls request animation frame with itself to run again next frame around 60 times a second. That constant update, draw, repeat is what turns all our little eased movements into smooth live motion. And the length check means on a small screen where we built nothing, it just idles. Now the input. On every mouse move we store the cursor's position, converted into grid cells by dividing by cell step, so it's in the same units as our characters, exactly what the hover math expected, and the click drives the whole cycle. We bail if there are no characters, then step through the phases in order. From the resting logo, a click scatters and staggers everyone. So they ripple out. From scattered, a click drops them into fallen, zeroing every fall speed first, so they start clean. And from fallen, a click sends them returning and staggers again for the ripple backup. A simple loop, logo, scattered, fallen, home, one click at a time. And last, we start everything. We build the logo once the image loads, rebuild it on resize so it always fits and respects the small screen cutoff, and the if logo complete line covers a timing catch. If the image was already cached before this code ran, the load event won't fire, so we check and build right away. Then one call to render loop kicks it all off. And that's the whole thing. A logo built out of ASCII characters that scatter, fall and gather back together, all in plain JavaScript on a canvas. If you'd like to grab the source code, it's available through the Pro membership linked below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.